Welcome in, everybody. Another episode of The Inspired Show with Joe Cohen. I'm super excited today. As you know, we're co-host heavy on this show, and we want to bring people on that will inspire you to overcome, exceed, and succeed. So, welcome into my co-host today, Robert Hart, who's
Thank you.
we'll put a date on this one. You just celebrated your 50th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, my
I
friend.
did. Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy to have made it.
I'm 5 years younger than you, so it's one of those things, right? But
You
like
know-
I said, you probably still kick my ass.
I've made it about 25 years longer than I thought I'd make it.
No doubt.
So I'm pretty excited to make 50. Some people get really anxious and freaked out by it, but I'm like, fucking made it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was diagnosed with a kidney disease at 19 years old, and I'm like, okay, I'm done, right? And then I was like, I did everything in my power to help it along.
Yeah.
So I really didn't think I was going to make it past 30. And then all of a sudden I woke up and it was 30. And I was like, oh, I guess I better start paying attention to what I'm doing. So thanks for coming in. You know, Rob and I have actually known each other for 18 plus years now.
Since 2006.
Oh my gosh. Wow. We were both in a situation where I was running a mortgage company that didn't do so well after the subprime market crashed. You were like a wholesale rep for a mortgage company that was...
I owned a nationwide notary service, and I worked for Long Beach Mortgage as an account executive.
Yes, I loved their
The
loans.
account executive was pretty short-lived. In 2006, that's when we really noticed that the market was going down.
Mm-hmm.
So my nationwide notary service, we had like a few hundred signings every month.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like it's still so vivid. In March of 2006, it was like, okay, we have 250 signings. Like, oh, okay, 50 signings. Maybe I lost a few clients. Then it was like April, 200, May, 150. And then by June, it was like, okay, I'm down to 100 signings.
Yeah.
And that was quick. And I thought, okay, something's coming. And then my genius was like, I'll go work for a subprime lender.
Yeah.
Well, that lasted for about 6 months. And then we met at Systems Paving.
Yeah, yeah. So we both were in a situation where we had families to provide for, and we went from making high six-figure incomes to basically nothing.
Yep.
And what else is there to do but pivot, right? Let's go try something new. Best part about System Paving, not just because of the people that we met, but that sales process, it changed who I was as a salesperson. You know what I mean? That intense program that we went through, and for those who are listening, we had to actually go through like it was actually like a 1 month training course where we had to memorize a script, memorize a presentation, pass it with an 85% or better, and we were sitting down in front of people at their kitchen tables and not leaving until we had a check, right?
You learn a lot when you sell belly to belly
Yeah.
in somebody else's dining room.
Yep.
It was an interesting time.
Yeah.
I've used that sales process in, I don't know, a dozen different places
Yep.
since I've...
Because
Since
it's
I learned
embedded
it.
in our brains, so we
It's
can
just
use the
a-
sales funnel system so easily now,
It's
right?
just a very smart, and it's used widely, right?
Mhm.
It's not like Systems Paving came up with
Nope.
something amazing. They took something that was, and they made their own, but it's a really smart A to Z sales process.
Yep.
And you can apply it in so many different aspects.
Yep.
And there's lots of people out there that have taken it to a new level.
Yeah.
There's a guy I follow. His name's Jeremy Lee Minor, and he's got the craziest little tweaks with sentencing or wording that he'll use. And I've applied it several times, and I've just followed this guy on Instagram, and it works. It works every time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about really just, listening. That's the biggest factor. And understanding what their responses are, acknowledging their responses, feeding it back to them, and then letting them get their head nodding with agreement, right?
You touch on something that's probably the biggest thing about sales. it's not about how great you can talk. Everybody thinks, oh, got the gift of
Gift of
gab.
gab, yeah.
They're usually the worst salespeople.
Yeah,
The
because they
people
talk
that
themselves out of it.
Yeah, the people that are the quietest and are really good active listeners, they're your best salespeople by far.
That's what I always tell my sales team is that you want to become a better listener than you are a speaker, because 9 times out of 10, the person who's speaking is the one who's going to talk themselves into it, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So so that was good times, and then we we worked our way out of that one real quickly.
Some of us worked their way out a little faster than others.
Yeah. But over the years, because we connected through surfing, and we used that flexible schedule to our advantage for sure, and got a couple good surf sessions in.
It was an interesting time that we bonded with a few, myself, you, and a couple other guys. We just really bonded in that time with kind of what we were going through.
Yeah.
Because it was an interesting time. I mean, now's a very interesting time too.
Kind of feel like we're kind of feeling that same environment, but in my opinion, I'm seeing it from a different site, right?
Yes.
Back then, I was kind of like in panic mode,
Yes.
like, oh, the world's crumbling. What am I to do?
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm kind of like being more strategic, right?
Yeah, you're able to be a little more strategic, a little more proactive. You're not, we wouldn't end up at a systems paving again.
No,
Right.
for sure. So you experienced something different than I experienced, but we're going down the same path. Once you left that role, you kind of dove back into loans, right? And you started building your real estate business. What was that like for you?
So I dove into the real estate side at that point, and I learned a lot about short sales. And we ended up between my wife and I, we sold a lot of short sales. It and basically we changed our whole financial position through short sales. Her and I bought a house. I mean, we started growing our family. Since we bought another house, I mean, it really changed everything. But somewhere along the line, the short sales were getting fewer and far between, and
Because equity started growing back.
Yeah, equity started coming back, and I had a bunch of friends in lending and asset management. And I was able to get into asset management, which I liked. I worked for a company called Impact. I think they're still around. I think they bought Cash Call or something. But they serviced a ton, or owned a ton of notes. And we could modify the people, and it was a real modification. It wasn't like the scams of all the people. You could send me your stuff. I can modify you in like 3 days.
Yeah.
And it was pure and clean, and it was a good deal. And if the people couldn't afford it, it was like, well, short sale, it's the only really clean way out. So that short sale stuff and all that stuff happened, and I ended up working for a lender, and the lender was Discover.
Yeah.
And Discover Financial Services was a great company to work for. It was a Fortune 500. I worked my way up into sales and sales management, and I ended up running one of the best purchase teams in the country. It was great.
So you took the opportunity to pivot, right? You took that opportunity to say, hey, there's something out here that I can capitalize on for the time being. And then you just kind of navigated through that and started, increasing your knowledge in different areas, using the skills that you built off of one thing. So you were kind of just stacking, experience to get you to the next level, right?
Yeah, that's look, perseverance and being able to pick yourself up is probably the most important thing, especially in the times right now.
Yeah.
You're probably seeing a lot of it. Insurance has changed a lot here in California in the last 4 or 5 months.
It's one of the reasons why, personally for me, I actually chose to step away from the property and casualty environment and kind of focus more on life insurance products and commercial insurance products, and doing more of my own commercial insurance for my builder's risk policies and things like that, because the homeowners market, there's a mass exodus going on right now in California. State Farm pulled out, Allstate pulled out, Farmers is about to pull out, right? So there's a big, upheaval going on in the property and casualty industry.
Don't you think that everybody should kind of boycott State Farm and Allstate and be like, hey, you won't insure houses? We're not going to let you insure our cars.
Um, well, let's be honest. It's a business at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and California Department of Insurance is not allowing them to increase the rates for the amount of losses that they're encountering. So, I mean, do you kind of blame them? They're saying, hey, you don't allow us to take rate and become a profitable business, so we're going to do the opposite of what you think we're going to do, which is bend over and just keep taking it. We're going to pull out and then force your citizens to get non-standard policies. It's really the Department of Insurance that's causing this ruckus. It's not the insurance companies.
I can see some of that, but didn't State Farm's CEO make $42 million last year?
Sure did.
I don't know if he's getting bent over.
No, but it's one of those things where too, a lot of people aren't reporting the mileage the way that they should be, right? And so they're actually exposed to more accidents than they are paying for on their insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So auto insurance is basically a loss. Homeowners insurance, before we used to have a major catastrophic event, and then it would be years before that event happened again. And now we're having wildfires every year, multiple times a year, right? So they can't keep up with the claims. There's still, like the Woolsey fire, there's still people that haven't been rebuilt, right? Or
That's
the Paradise
crazy.
fire.
Yeah.
None of them actually, most of them were self-insured. So none of them had insurance to actually rebuild their house. So now it's just, dried up land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I get your point as far as, the executives and the people that we pay to keep the policies coming our way, but I'm empathetic to insurance companies because of the fact that I've seen behind the scenes, right? I worked for GeoVera Earthquake Insurance. I know how they manage their budget, and it's all through reinsurance.
Mm-hmm.
So an insurance company is getting insurance to be able to pay claims, right?
Yeah.
That's that, and they take the money that they have from the premiums and invest them in the stock market or other investments and things of that nature, and that's how they become wealthy, right? But the reinsurance premiums went up by 40% in 2023. So if you are losing money more than you expected to because you're not charging enough premium for the risks that you're taking on, and then the basically the backup plan, if the proverbial shit hits the fan, you're overpaying for everything, and it's just unprofitable. So I understand what's going on. It's kind of more like a strike, so to speak. It's not like they're going to go away from California forever, but they're making a point, and Ricardo Lara has a lot to do with it, man. That guy is I don't know if you know who he is, but he's the insurance commissioner, and he's kind of just like doing a political play and saying, I'm saving the public money, but he's not. And he's using that as a way to kind of move into the governor role. So that's just my opinion, by the way, everybody. That's, what I'm seeing out there, right? But
well, he's definitely allowed California to start an insurance company
yeah.
because now there's the California Fair Plan.
Well, the California Fair Plan's been around forever.
He's increased it a lot.
That's another thing that he's trying to do. He's trying to make the California Fair Plan become a full-fledged homeowners policy when it was just a major catastrophic policy.
Yeah, of the mortgages I do, I would say at least 2/3 have to go to the California Fair Plan.
Yeah.
Just because we're here in South Orange County and
there's a lot of wild brush.
There's a lot of open space still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've transitioned, you've pivoted, you've stayed consistent in the line of work, which is loans and real estate. Your wife's been crushing it over the last, couple decades now, almost the 2 decades. In this time of transition, because we are experiencing a transition right now. I don't think that anybody's ever, especially with the millennials and the Gen Zers and the Gen Yers, they've never seen interest rates this high, right? We are used to interest rates this high, so it really doesn't affect us as much as the younger demographic. And now they're kind of like there's that feeling of, oh, I can't afford a home. I can't the values are too high and the interest rates are too high, so I'm out, right? And you're starting to see people now leave the state, which they already were from a political standpoint, but now they're moving because they can't really afford it to be here in California. How is that impacting your business? And it seems like we're having to pivot again, right?
So I think what is the only constant change is change, or is the thing about people leaving. That is, there's still a lot of people coming in.
Yep.
And you get all these other states, and they're screaming California is, everybody's leaving California. Well, you and I know we can go out on the freeway and realize nobody's left. No one's left, and we're like, anybody ready to leave? I'll help you.
Yeah.
But it's like a 1% net change. So we've been looking at these numbers a lot. It's a 1% net change, but our 1% is a huge number compared to a Texas, a Wyoming, a Tennessee, a Colorado, wherever people are deciding to go.
We could practically be our own country over there.
Well, we are the 5th largest GDP?
Yeah.
I mean, California alone is the 5th largest economy on the planet.
Right.
So the reality is California carries the United States in so many areas.
Right.
Now, that makes probably a lot of people upset, but
it's the truth.
It's the truth.
Can't get around it.
California's also like it's the pretty girl at the prom. Everybody wants to take her. One person gets to.
Yeah.
And everybody hates that one person.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, that's just
Great
the way
analogy.
it goes. But, I mean, look outside. What is it, 73 today?
Yeah.
Not a cloud in the sky. It's beautiful. I
was golfing at 6 a.m. yesterday and walking. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And this is like 360 days a year. So it's definitely pay to play here.
Sure.
Which you get to play a lot.
Right.
But the pivot, it's a time where pivots, you just got to be prepared to do whatever it takes. That's what I found. I think that's what I learned growing up as a kid. My family always did that. I had a dad that he just didn't complain. He wasn't going to come home and whine about what he had to go do to put food on the table or anything. And I think that I picked up that trait somewhere along the way. And I look at my kids, I look at my wife, and I'm like, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, when we met, I was doing systems paving during the day. I was doing construction in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I was doing notary signings whenever they would come, which would be, evenings or weekends. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Yeah. You never said no.
I never said no.
Yeah.
And I still don't.
Yeah. I was doing system pavings, bartending.
Yeah.
Building a business with some friends for loan modifications.
Yep.
Right. And then once system paving was over, I went full-fledged into the loan modifications, and then I started doing loans a little bit again because it kind of came back for a hot second. And then, boom, I'm like, I got to go start my insurance company. You know what I
And
mean?
we all did a little bit of loan mods, but we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about that. Some guys I worked for, they might still be serving some time for what they did.
I remember that too.
Yeah.
There's 2 times in my life where I was afraid of the FBI coming down, knocking down on the door. One was when I was working at IndyMac Bank, and the other one was I was working for loan modification.
You know what? I was working at this loan modification company. And I guess we can say the name because they already went to jail.
Yeah.
So it's Rotus Law Group. And I remember they moved me to a senior managing, not partner, but senior director type position. And we did $12 million worth of sales in, I want to say 3-4 months.
Yeah, it was quick.
And it was whoa. And we started we were a tax relief company. And the owner had made this great software. It was even to this day, it was a good software. It was a sales software. It had this leaderboard tracking. So as soon as somebody would put a deal on, it would move their name up, and everybody knew John Doe is at the top.
Yeah.
I'm number 3. I've got
Oh, yeah. So
it
people
did it the
were
whole time.
competitive.
Yeah, and it made this sales game instead of worrying about what your paycheck was.
Yeah.
Everybody got into the game
Yeah.
of trying to get on the board. And I remember they moved us to this big building, and we went to this like 20,000 square foot space. We started in a really small space off Orange. We went to this big 20,000 square foot, and they got the second,
Mm-hmm.
like the floor below us.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's where all the files are being worked on.
Yeah.
So one day I'm like, man, all my sales guys are getting calls from everybody we've sold to.
Yeah.
Like they're having trouble taking calls from new people because they're having to field all these calls.
Yeah. Nothing's happening.
And so I jump in the elevator, I go downstairs, and I walk up. There's 3 people,
Yeah.
3 girls,
Yeah.
and they had files stacked to their like eyeballs,
Yeah.
literally to their like as high as them, and they were just putting them in file cabinets. I'm like, where is everyone? They're like, what do you
This
mean
is it.
everyone?
This is
They're like,
us.
this is everyone.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's 3 people?
Yeah.
I'm like, we have like 1,200 plus files.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you guys doing? They're like, just organizing. I'm like, weren't they organized already? And they're like, well, we moved them from this place. So they're like this storage unit. Now we're putting them in these file cabinets. And I'm like, yeah, but what are you doing with them?
Yeah.
And they weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
And so I left literally like less than 30 days later.
Yeah.
I took my last paycheck. And the next day I was like, well, I got an opportunity. I'm out.
Yeah.
Less than 30 days later, FBI came in, windbreakers and all.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I left just in time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, we didn't have that experience, but it was an interesting time again. But
Yeah.
ultimately, it comes down to just like you said, just never saying no and just
Yeah.
keep going forward, right? Because
I mean, sometimes I guess we should say no. But
there's something to be said about that. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
But,
it's like
yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't even be where I am today if I didn't say I'll try that.
no, you're right. You're right.
You know?
I'm just talking about maybe a little months. We might have said no to that. But, it was so short lived. It was only probably 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it was probably 8 months for me.
Yeah.
because we were a
probably
little
6
smaller shop.
months or so. I got
A
out
lot
there
of
pretty
a lot
quick.
of those people that came from your place came over to my place for a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they probably did.
Yeah.
Took the scripts that somebody else wrote.
No, I wrote that script.
No, I'm talking about the scripts that I didn't write.
Oh yeah, right. No, I actually I used the sales funnel to.
The sales funnel's
Yeah,
great.
it worked. It worked. But yeah, so ultimately, what it comes down to is that now we're in this time of shift again. You are just like buying businesses. You're like, screw it. I'm gonna buy a business. I'm gonna set that business up, build it up, and then sell that business for a profit. So you're basically flipping businesses, right?
That was the idea. I looked at businesses for probably a year and a half. My wife and I, and I probably turned one business down that I wish I didn't. And you know me a long enough time that I don't carry a lot of regrets. I regret this business I turned down. But at the time, I wasn't ready to buy this business.
Yeah.
And but there are, so I've done so much research now. There's a lot of great information out there. There's a book called Buy Then Build by Walker Deibel. It's a great book, and it's a great read if anybody is interested in looking at what's out there.
Yep.
But
It's another one that's on my list.
yeah, there is I think it's like 19%, or there's 10,000 baby boomers basically retiring every day. Every day. That's a lot
That's
of
a
people.
big statistic, yeah.
Okay. And like, I think it's like 14 and 19% on a business that they don't know what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
Not just,
Well, because
yeah.
they're younger generation. They don't want to be a entrepreneur. They don't
Or
want to take
they
it
don't want to
over.
be a plumber. They don't want
Yeah.
to be an HVAC owner.
Mhm.
But they're, beyond those weird things, those basic boring businesses, there's so many little niche businesses out there that you have no idea. You're like, wait, what do you do? They're like, I make the sticker that goes on a shipping label that goes out, and you're like, well, what? And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, but I do 6 million of them a year at, you're just like, wait,
Yeah.
what did you just say?
Yeah, like 8 cents or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and you have to fish and find the right ones. But we've come up with a few. We've pivoted. And so if you talk about real estate and mortgage, even back in 06, 7, and 8, people pivoted to certain things. They pivoted to loan mods. They pivoted into like the construction stuff,
Insurance.
insurance. So there was a few pivots, right? And right now there's a few pivots. A lot of mortgage people, insurance people, or real estate people, not insurance. Sorry, they're going to debt consolidation. They went into solar.
Tax relief.
Tax relief was back then, right? And now there's the ERC money that everybody's trying to jump on, but that's going to be very short-lived, that ERC.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's in like 2025 or something, 2024 it ends. But they're all pivoting like the same thing. So it's kind of like the herds are moving.
So
right?
you're trying to identify where the herd's not moving to.
Somewhere, my thought this time, compared to back in '08, is let's look at something that is recession-proof. Let's look at something that has some longevity. And you probably learned the same thing. Business is business. It actually doesn't take as long as people think to learn a new type of business.
No. Because
But-
at the end of the day, it still runs the same.
Right?
Money in, money out. You know?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It takes people longer to learn business
Yeah.
than it does for them to learn whatever they're doing. So
I think it's because they have to unprogram themselves from college and the school system. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They're taught to go to school, graduate, get a job, right? So
yeah,
their mindset is like so just tuned to be plugged into the system versus be a creator of the system.
and that one of my favorite things that people will do or say will be, well, you don't know anything about that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Great.
I know. It keeps me sharp and it keeps me excited. I didn't know anything about getting married and having a family, but you guys were all on board with that shit. You guys were high-fiving me, giving me gifts.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I'm going to buy a business. And you're like, oh, this is a bad idea. I'm like, where were you?
Yeah. 4 kids ago.
Yeah. But no, it's, I think being able to pivot and being able to persevere is super important in a market like this. And look, you've done a great job. I've watched you go from selling insurance to selling a house here or there, then selling more houses. Then you're like, I'm flipping a house. Then I'll never forget what you said, which was, it was actually, no pun intended, it was inspiring because you were like, you know me, I go all in, I drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And you were talking about EXP.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know much about EXP at the time. And then you introduced me to
Ramon.
Yeah, Ramon. And we did the thing down in San Diego, and it was pretty great. And I'm like, man, that's a great model. And I've been trying to put that same idea together for the mortgage company that I have. I'm like, how can I get mortgage loan officers to recruit new loan officers and get a little piece of what they've got? And I think I have it dialed in.
Nice.
And now it's about launching it, getting it out there.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks in the industry that are looking for something similar.
Right. And we've come up with a concept as a broker where we're kind of like broker in a box.
Yeah.
You want to be a broker, but you don't want to go through the 6 to 8 months of setting up, doing all the licensing, not making any money and all that. You can come do
And
your
the scrutiny
brokerage.
from the lenders.
All of it.
Yeah.
You're filling out all the broker packages and everything. Oh, which system works best?
Yeah.
What CRM should I use? We have all of that dialed in for you. You come under us, you get to keep 85% of everything.
Nice.
Everything. So total profit you get to keep. Not 85 basis points. And that
Yeah.
throws some of these
Yeah.
loan officers off because they're so used to basis points.
Right.
No, you get to keep 85% of the total revenue.
Yeah.
Total revenue typically is around 2 points. And the reason we keep it at 2 points or lower, you want to be super competitive in this market.
Yep.
If you don't have the best rate and the best service,
You're out.
yeah,
And somebody will jump ship for
Yeah.
you, for 1/8 of a percent.
there's a lot of these retail companies out there, the cross countries, the movement mortgages, all of those. they can't keep up
Yeah.
with our rates and our fees and process. And that's what's driving the market for us. That's why we're still staying alive.
Yeah.
They've got VPs and sales managers and
Salaries.
processing
Yep.
managers and all of this, like, you know, garbage salaries of people that aren't actually doing the work.
Yep.
And, you know,
It's unnecessary.
yeah, it's unnecessary.
And so that's actually funny that you're mentioning that, because that's why I felt so confident in taking the leap from working with Giovera, was because I have my licenses. I can actually go attach myself to other property and casualty agencies,
Mhm.
refer the business, they do all the work, I get a split of the commission, right?
Yeah.
And so there's other companies out there. One that I worked very well with, and it kind of helped me start my insurance business, Superior Access. That they basically is an insurance brokerage in a box. You appoint yourself with with Superior Access, and they give you access to all of their top rated carriers. And then you just submit the application online. They give you the quotes. You sell the product. It goes into your book of business. You can take your book of business anywhere with you. So that's a very similar model to the EXP model as well, and it sounds like what you're building.
I think that that's where a lot of these types of financial services and stuff are going, because it's like people want the best.
Yeah.
They want the best price. They want good service, and they want to deal with somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to deal with somebody that knows what they're talking about is somebody that's had a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. Experience takes time to get, right?
Yeah.
Not very few people are willing to dive in and learn something and put everything into it.
Right.
You've hired lots of people.
Taking the guess out of that.
Yeah, I've hired lots of people. Lots of people want to just be like, 5 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
see you later, and they leave. And okay, that's fine. That's great if that's the way you like to live.
It's not even in my vocabulary. Even when I was a W-2 employee, I would be sitting on the couch and I'd be, putting in notes or making appointments or making, follow-ups. You know what I mean? It was like there's no days off in my vision. I mean, there's balance, there's work-life balance, right? I mean, I was just in Kauai for 8 days, 2.5 weeks ago, but I'll tell you right now, I was up at 5 a.m. on my script practicing calls with my team. I was sending out emails, getting deals in escrow, doing all of that stuff. But that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. You can work from
still do it
anywhere,
from Kauai.
right?
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think it's a great thing to be able to pull off and do. You can really spend quality time with the people you love. It makes a big difference. My advice to people right now that are struggling is hook your wagon to somebody that's figured it out.
Yeah.
That is hustling.
Yep.
Separate yourself. That's something that I've done in the last, I would say in the last couple years, I've gotten really good at being able to tell people or disassociate from what I call the crab pots of the world.
Mm.
If you don't know what the analogy of the crab pot is, if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket,
Yeah.
and one starts to finally crawl out, the other crabs will grab it,
it.
just
Yeah.
yank it back down to where you're like, God, I can't escape.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you can escape those negative people, those people that are, the people that are looking for the bankruptcies or the easy way out, or I need to go on disability, and you're just like, man, you've always got a reason not to put it all in.
Yeah.
Right? You got a reason, like get away from that. Find the people like yourself or somebody and hook your wagon to that and just dive in with those people.
Yep.
Because if you dive in, you're going to get wet and you're going to be happy about it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a great freaking way to end the show today, man.
Yeah.
That was a perfect advice. I mean, we always talk about it. Put yourself in the right room with the right people, or put yourself in the room where everybody's doing better than yourself, because that's going to help you achieve your goals. So
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for having me.
appreciate you coming on.
It's great. I'm happy to support you, and I'm happy to be here.
We'll definitely have you back on too, because this is a co-host show, man. I need
All right.
I need co-hosts to come back on and keep
Great.
this show going. So, where can people find you, Rob?
They can find me at robert@avidmortgages.com. They can find me on my Instagram, which is rericshart. And but the easiest way is Avid Mortgage Solutions. That's the best way to find me.
AVID, right?
AVID, yes.
Yep, there you go.
Can't even spell it myself.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate you being here. If you like what you saw here today, go ahead and pound that subscribe button, and make sure you get the alerts. We're on our YouTube page at The Inspired Show with Joe Cohen, and then of course you can always follow me on my Instagram and social media at Joe Cohen Inspires. So thanks for joining us for another episode, and we'll see you soon.